In this last talk, we would like to present you 3 issues. It will be our view on the globular Amphora communities in 3 aspects of their existence. We will pass through processes of interactions with other communities. This is the term of hybridization, because we will look closer for these interactions, very specific. First, in the east, I mean the East European forest steppe, and then we turn to the west, to the Middle Elbe Saale area. And the third issue we offer is the closer look for the significance of domestic animals, especially cattle. We go shortly through processes of catalyzation, the term of Johannes. So, Volker. So first we go to the east. The turn of the 4th millennium BC introduces globular Amphora populations on the vast expanses of Eastern Europe. We have remains of their occupation across Volhynia, Podylia, and the Moldavian upland, the Siret river area. And they are extended as far as the Middle Dnieper river, so near today Kyiv, yeah? And even on the east bank of this big river Dnieper. 3 main concentrations of the globular Amphora sites have formed in Volhynia, red marked here, in Podylia, marked in blue, and in the Siret River area, marked in yellow. They are named as subgroups within the eastern group. For our topic, the latter 2, so Podylia and Siret, are particularly important, as they are located within the East European forest steppe zone. In both concentrations, stone-seized graves, mainly with a few burials, more than 2, dominate among the sites. In Podylia, a majority of sites are located in the northern tributaries of the upper Dniester river, so in this part. But we have also a small cluster on the southern Bug river. Chronology of the Podylia concentration or subgroup is relatively well established, thanks to more than 30 radiocarbon datings. In western Podylia, we have they indicate the beginning of the presence of globular Amphora communities around 2900 and the end about 2500 BC. And the typical Podylia grave is a stone-seized, built of slabs with a stone floor, with a stone cover, and this is the example from Hartonivce. Such graves were located below the ground level and had no embankment. At least there are no record of this. This is newly excavated Biały Potok, excavated 2021. The first trace is the hole, just hole in the ground. And then we have stone seized with 3 male burials and very rich equipment. A chronology of the Siret group is based on a limited number of radiocarbon datings, but they also indicate its beginnings more or less in the same time, from 2900 BC. Here also, our evidence here includes also mainly stone-seized graves but with single inhumations or with a few burials. By the way, from this Siret group, we have these translocations to the eastern Transylvania, San Martin, with the stone-seized grave with the bone, the so-called bone buckles or bone deep plates. In the close vicinity of all these concentrations, 3 zones of interactions between globular amphora cultures and forest steppe communities can be found or have took place. So on the western bank of the Middle Dnieper River, then on the southern Bug River in the upper course of this river, and on the Dniester-Prut river. So on the Middle Dnieper, we have, and its western tributaries, especially the river Ros here, we have pure globular amphora sites, Kyjew Nikolska, Słobitka, Kaniw, Doslidnickoje, so pots and other artifacts visible on this slide. In the close vicinity of these sites, we have also barrows, Yamnaya barrows, and one of them, located in Łosiatyn, was excavated by Gottfried Ossowski in 19th century. Here, the main grave was the Yamnaya grave with one absolutely foreign vessel, non-local for the Yamnaya, but local for the globular amphora, such ornamented amphora. For many years, this vessels was exhibited in the museum as the globular amphora, just. A similar situation we have on the southern Bug River. We have pure globular amphora sites with pots, with other artifacts, also this bone buckles here. And we have also a Yamnaya barrow with the main, not main, but subsequent grave equipped with only one vessel, so amphora, just amphora, not typical for the Yamnaya, but very close to the globular amphora. And now we move we are moving to the Prut-Dniester area. There is a series of Yamnaya barrows with graves made according to Yamna funeral rules, but equipped with globular amphora vessels. They were located on the Dniester, on the Prut, and on the Raud river. Thanks to Denis Topal, we have this slide with such vessels. And thanks to collaboration with Moldavian colleagues from the National Museum of History, it was possible to obtain samples of human bones to radiocarbon and to stable isotopes and strontium analysis. And we decided to make a series of radiocarbon datings, not only for these graves with globular amphora, but for all graves, for combining radiocarbon chronology and stratigraphy. I would like to turn your attention also for different forms we have here in these graves, because we have really globular amphora, just globular amphora, small vessel from Mokra. We have white mouse amphoras, as in Badrażiweki or in Kolpaci or in Oknica. We have an elongated amphora from Markuleszt, and we have derivates, as here in Orhei, as here in Kamenka. Pererita is not so sure, but could be also in this set. As a result of our collaboration and our analysis, we obtained 2 series of radiocarbon datings which can be confronted with stratigraphy, and the Bayesian modeling was possible. This is the result for Markuleszt. We have also such results for Oknica. Unfortunately, for the third, for Badrażiweki, it was not possible because the majority of bones are missing, but we have Fortunately, we obtained a sample for this grave with a very typical white mouse globular amphora, which can be found in Kujawy, in southern Poland, so in all such in the core area of the globular amphora culture. Our results show that the described very specific graves do not come from one short period of time, but rather it was a long practice, at least in this region of Prut-Dniester. Because we have radiocarbon datings from 2900 until 2600. Of course, there are only 3, but they are very different. And what is for me very, very important, the oldest datings was related to this very typical globular amphora white mouth vessel, the most typical, I can say, from the stylistic, but also from technological point of view. We have also samples of pottery, so we are waiting now for results of mineralogical, petrographic, and also neodymium studies of these vessels. As I said before, we made also analysis of stable isotopes. We are waiting for strontium, and we can compare results with other Yamnaya and globular amphora individuals. I would like to turn your attention for these 2 graves equipped with globular amphora graves. There were graves of rather adult men, equipped with such vessels. And for our comparison, we used, for example, series from the forest steppe, from the Yampil area, I mean the stable isotopes analysis, the steppe series of Claudia Gerling, and the globular amphora series from Podillia. There are fresh, unpublished results of ongoing analysis. And our results show that the Moldavian series from these 2 barrows is close to the steppe series, but is much more compact. Only in a limited way, it has similarities to the Yampil area, Yamna, in the blue, and the globular amphora series from Podillia, marked in green, clearly differs from others. And some kinds of conclusion. It is possible, thanks to such graves as I described it is possible to identify a kind of borderland between areas controlled on the one hand by globular amphora communities, on the other by the Yamna communities. And this borderland was located in the northern part of the forest steppe zone between the Dnieper and the Prut. And the direct contacts between these 2 communities are evidenced by graves made according to Yamna rules, but furnished only exclusively with globular amphora style vessels. And we have not one such grave, but we have a series of such graves which may reflect wider social acceptance for hybridization of funeral practices. According to chronometric data I showed earlier, direct contacts between the 2 communities were practiced for a relatively long period, from 2900 to 2600 BC. It means during the existence of the Podillia and Siret subgroups of the globular amphora. It is possible that such contacts may have been in the form of individuals migrating, some small-scale marital exchange or something like this. However, this hybridization of funeral rules didn't extend to other social practices, such as food consumption. There is a clear differentiation in diet between globular amphora and Yamnaya individuals in contact area. And now.
Yeah, maybe two small remarks after this about the Mittelelbe-Saale-Gebiet, or it's called hybridization of globular amphorae and, let's say, late TRB in this area. We are talking here on the Mittelelbe-Saale-Gebiet, and if you could see here in the distribution area of the documented globular amphorae pots, it's quite a sustainable area there. If you would like to link the globular amphorae or the globular amphorae style, to put it this way, into the main development in this area, again, SPDs of the C14 dates which are available, you could see that in contrast to, for example, the North Alpine Foreland or the Czech Republic, the development here in the Neolithic is in principle on a very similar level before and after the globular amphorae appearance, but it is also obvious that again there is this kind of reduction, at least of human activities which are represented by C14 dating in this time of the globular amphorae here in the Mittelelbe-Saale region. Nevertheless, most of the evidence here comes from burials. I don't want to talk about burials. In contrast, for example, to Kujavia, there are some burials here, for example, from Düsedau with C14 dating, which is quite early and which shows somehow that we are dealing here, let's say, with a kind of sphere in which at least this type of globular amphorae style seems to appear, and probably, in my opinion, at least some other kinds of new symbolic signs for the creation of a kind of identity took place. These are probably very let's say, wrong dates and of this early experience here in Moldavia, and Marzena just showed with the new dates that we cannot trust in these old dates. Niels already showed the situation in this Mittelelbe-Saale area for orientation. This is the Elbe, here is Magdeburg, here are the Harz Mountains, and here is this area of Chernosems or black soils which are very fertile. They are associated especially with TRB Bernburg sites, domestic sites and burial sites, while the globular amphorae settlement sites are linked to the non-Löss areas, but globular amphorae graves are known from all the area. So this means that there was a big interlinkage between these two groups, if we can talk about two different groups. The evidence for domestic structures is quite weak. We are dealing on the one hand with some kind of houses, and on the other hand of huts, which are quite typical for this time. You saw already this map where this contrast between the globular amphorae sites or domestic sites, more or less in these fluvial till areas and not linked to the black soil areas, is contrasting this situation with this Bernburg pottery, which is contemporary. The contemporaneity is described also if we take the typological development, which is proved by C14 dating as chronological. It is visible that the decoration patterns between Bernburg and globular amphorae are synchronous. So in Bernburg, there is a development, for example, of this simple Winkelbänder to more complex Winkelbänder, and this is also obvious here in the globular amphorae ceramics. So there is this interconnection, also typologically visible. And if we try to quantify on the pottery the innovation rate in respect to decoration techniques, it is also a very similar development for this Bernburg and globular amphorae style. In respect to isotope analysis, no differences are possible between Bernburg and globular amphorae. That's on the one hand surprising, but on the other hand, if, for example, an exchange of the food takes place, for example, cattle against cereals or whatever, you would probably not recognize differences within the isotope analysis, even if you are talking about more pastoral-oriented people or more agricultural-oriented people in respect at least to the reconstruction of the nutrition. In respect to ADNA analysis, there's also no difference visible between Bernburg and globular amphorae, or even to Baalberge. And maybe one remark, Baalberge, which is dating already much earlier, 3600 BC. There is also the steppe ancestry in Baalberge visible, so much earlier than the Yamnaya input to some areas of Europe. In the end, there is a great or big variation between this division, the spatial division between globular amphorae and TRB in the Mittelelbe-Saale-Gebiet, a kind of division which is only partly visible here in northern Bohemia, or a kind of overlap but with an orientation still to the Elbe River in the Altmark, which I principle already showed to you in the first presentation. So if we try to come up with a kind of model, it could be that we are talking about different possibilities how this globular amphorae styles, or the people using and producing globular amphorae pottery, are separating themselves from the TRB, as here in the Mittelelbe-Saale area, with the division which we ethnographically know, for example, also from Scandinavia. If we talk about the Samic population in the 13th century and the more coastal-oriented population in Scandinavia, or this overlapping between both TRB and globular amphorae styles, which is visible here. Nevertheless, it seems to be clear, not only on typological grounds, but also on genetic grounds and on the spatial situation, that within TRB, a separation of some people took place, which in the end developed a new kind of identity or symbolic system, which made their new identity. If we want to talk about one identity, sometimes we have two or three identities, is visible, and which in the end leads also to a situation where corded ware and TRB and globular amphorae are somehow developing in, let's say, new ways, like Niels also tried to explain that. I don't want to talk here about the reasons why such a separation could have been taken place, but it seems to be, I don't want to explain this to you, but it seems to be, at least for me, that in the later TRB, social tension is visible, and social tension is visible in a diversification of the burial rites also, and the identification of social differences which might not be useful for everybody. So in this sense, the concept of globular amphorae might also be a concept of a leveling system, a against social diversification. Nevertheless, these new groups, they are able to monopolize some rituals which were also practiced before, especially in respect to cattle. So in respect to cattle burials or cattle depositions, which we already know from 3800 BC in many areas of Europe, but also in Central Europe. And it seems to be obvious that the first double cattle burials, which are associated like in the stone heap graves, which we just saw in the presentation before, the earliest dates are from central Germany, from Niederschwör, for example, around 3350 to 3100 BC. But after 3000 BC, burials or depositions of cattle with more than one cattle in one pit, so 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, are only known in connection with globular amphorae pottery, maybe with the exception of the stone heap graves in northeast Jutland. As far as I know, the only pottery which is visible sometimes there is Store Walby, Middle Neolithic 5. But nevertheless, it seems to be that there is this kind of monopolization for this globular amphorae phenomena on the practice of this double burial ritual, and I don't want to go into detail here with the C14 dates. What is interesting from, let's say, Little Poland or West Ukraine to Central Germany, globular amphorae double or more, or burials with more than 2 cattle, they appear not earlier than 2950 BC. So this seems to be a breaking point here. It's also visible perhaps on these maps with the distribution of C14 dated assemblages with double or more cattle burials in this area. Yes. Okay, in principle, to put it this way, there seems to be a kind of symbolic development. Ritual practices seem to be monopolized by some groups within the late TRB, which led to these new identities, and surely in some areas of the globular amphorae distribution, a kind of mobility, or you would call it migration, took probably place in West Ukraine, for example, but in many areas of the globular amphorae distribution. For example, this high Western hunter-gatherer part, 25%, which is a stereotype for the 43 globular amphorae individuals which had been analyzed, is known already from all the groups here, which are older at least, and might also indicate a kind of Western influence, which we don't want to talk about now. Yeah, last question, which I cannot answer. So, what was in it? So, what was in the globular amphorae pots? I mean, from different settlement sites in Latvia, for example, or Lithuania, we know that they were used for normal purposes. Lipid analysis here on a megalithic, on pots from a megalithic tomb in Schleswig-Holstein with this Baltic type of globular amphorae indicated that on the one hand, like with the other TRB pots in it, cattle meat was given for the, let's say, rite de passage, and becoming from a dead person an ancestor. But on the other hand, sea buckthorn oil was also documented, and this might have been a very prestigious and homeopathic content in globular amphorae, at least in some areas of the globular amphorae distribution, and this might indicate also a very nice purpose of globular amphorae for a more peaceful world. Okay, we leave this. Yes. So, thanks a lot.